So let's begin with the debate on the topic IT laws, guide for intermediaries and digital media ethics code, user-friendly or government-friendly. We have two teams, one for the motion and one against the motion, and the debate will be followed in Cambridge style with a rebuttal round in last. Each team would have a total of 20 minutes to put their points forward on the topic. No team can exceed the given limit. So without wasting any time, let's begin with the first member of the motion for the motion and then against the motion.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Shubhankar. Uh, I'm Arush and I'll be beginning the proceedings for the motion. A very good morning to all the people present here today. I believe that we are all aware of the fact that India is a country with a huge population. In fact, the second largest population in the entire world. At this minute, around 70 crore people of our country are on various social media platforms. The influence of social media has been immense, to say the least. Now, this becomes the government's duty to see if its countrymen feel safe on these social media platforms, to see if the messaging on these platforms, which spread like wildfire, does not cost the country in any manner, to see if social media does not become a tool for evils like terrorism and fake news. The Information Technology, Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021 in order to keep the people of this country feel secure when they are on these platforms. I'll now quickly take you through these laws and why have been they made. The most important among the new IT rules is to create a system for the complaints of social media users and to appoint 3 new officers. The first of these posts is that of Chief Compliance Officer, which the government said on February 25 in its announcement that the officer appointed on behalf of these companies will ensure that the complaints under the law are taken under the law itself. This officer will be able to work only by staying in India. The second post is that of Nodal Contact Officer. On this post, these companies had to appoint an officer who would be in contact with the investigating agencies and ministries of India. The third post is that of a grievance officer. It was the responsibility of the officer appointed on this post to take action on complaints within 24 hours and redress the grievance within 15 days. An important instruction in this order was for these companies that they will have to make user traceability available to the government and investigative agencies. And by user traceability, we have never said that each and every user on social media would be traced upon any time and anywhere. No, this is not going to happen. Think of user, sorry.
Last 30 seconds left.
Yeah, think of user traceability as if someone shared some dangerous information on these platforms, and then that information was spread among many users. Then these companies will have to tell who was the first person who put this information on their platform. And India is not the only country that has demanded such information from WhatsApp. Apart from India, Brazil, New Zealand, Canada, UK, US, these countries have also done the same. Talking about the OTT platforms, well, they have been booming as well in today's world. However, some of the content released on these platforms have raised some serious questions of defamation, hurting of religious sentiments, etc. So, with the shortage of time, I would not really be able to explain the OTT platforms and the rules that have been announced. So what I mean to say in overall is that Government of India is responsible for law and order in the country. Such companies cannot stop the government from doing its work in the name of privacy. By these laws, the government just says that it is the responsibility of these companies to make such software in which the privacy of the users is also ensured, and those who do illegal activities can also be caught. Think if tomorrow these social media companies be the primary source of any attack on the country, who will be responsible? In such a situation, these companies will shed their hold and will put all the blame on the government. Hence, for once, they need to stop caring about their profit and loss situations and work with the government to ensure the safety of people the safety of the country. Thank you.
So, good morning. This is Mansi Joshi, and I'm speaking against the motion. I'll start with the introduction of the topic on the behalf of my team. I would like to quote a poem which tells us how the ministers are serving not for the country but for themselves. चल उठ नेता तू छेड़तान क्या राष्ट्र धर्म क्या संविधान तू नए नए हथकंडे ला वश में अपने कुछ कुंडे ला फिर उन्हें उठा के झंडे ला हर एक हाथ में डंडे ला फिर ले जनता की ओर तान क्या राष्ट्र धर्म क्या संविधान इस शहर में लिखते चेहरे क्यों आपस में चेहरे गहरे क्यों घर घर खुशहाली चेहरे क्यों सच पर है झूठ के पहरे क्यों आपस में लड़वा तभी जान क्या राष्ट्र धर्म क्या संविधान. So, moving forward, there is no longer any privacy in this world where we live. To constantly be watched by the government and other elite marketers or something against our will. There is no longer any privacy in whatever we say and do. There are so many things against us. They are trying to defeat me and you. There is no longer any privacy as if we are being controlled. Government has all type of information about us. They have information new and information that is old. There is no longer privacy in our lives and we don't have a chance. Government have so much information on us, they did this far in advance. India's new IT rules unveiled in February this year says a lot about how Indian government wants to censor anything against them. The Information Technology or Intermediary Guidelines in Digital Media Ethics Code Rule 2021 fundamentally changed the way the internet will be experienced in India. The safeguards it seeks to establish how they affect your internet users' experience and your fundamental rights. Most notably, the rules now will bring government in control rather than regulation over digital news platform and OTT video content provider. Several requirements under them suffer from unconstitutionality and undermine the free expression and privacy for millions of internet users in India. Media controls the mind of people and government controls the media. Media is the voice of people, but Indian media is just man ki baat of Narendra Modi. Modi government is nothing but a cabinet of clowns. The ministers don't have what they are responsible for. And the evidence of this is given by how the policies in the past few years were implemented looked great on paper, but when it came down to the implementation of the same, the Modi government messed it all up, but turned out to be a great loss for the citizens of country. For example, the abolition of Article 370 from the Kashmir. This article was abolished, but what happened after that was very severe. In the first days of August 2019, there were signs of something afoot in Kashmir. Telephone and internet services were suspended and regional political leaders were placed under house arrest. But most of the speculation was that Article 35A of the Indian Constitution, which gave some special privileges to the people of the state, would be scrapped. Same thing happened with demonetization. It still haunts Indian economy. The demonetization was announced as a surprise in the night of November 8, 2016. The severe cash shortage brought detrimental impact on the economy. People trying to exchange their banknote had to stand in lengthy queues, causing many deaths due to inconvenience and rush. Same thing is about to happen with the new IT rules. So, what is the structure of the intermediary rules? Let me explain. While part 1 of the intermediary rules mainly lays down the definition of terms, part 2nd and part 3rd contain the actual compliance and requirements. Part 2nd deals with the regulation and intermediaries, including the social media intermediaries. Social media intermediaries include messaging related intermediaries such as WhatsApp, Signal, and Telegram, and media related intermediaries such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This part is administered by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Part 3rd deals with the regulation of digital news media, though there is a lack of clarity on exactly which news media these rules apply to. And OTT platforms such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Hotstar. Part 3 is administered by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. These IT rules look as scary on paper as they are going to look after they are implemented. These rules are going to impact our digital rights. They have far-reaching consequences on online privacy, freedom of speech and expression, and access to the information. Thank you.
Now let's move on and hear from the supporting team.
Now let's move on to the body part of this debate. That is, I would like to focus I would like to throw your attention on the social media policy part 2, which comes under the IT department. And under this, the government is expecting through the rules and regulations to follow a due diligence by the intermediaries. The social media intermediary shall observe the following due diligence while discharging its duties. The rules and regulations, privacy policy, or user agreement of the intermediary shall inform the user not to host, display, or upload any information that belongs to another person and to which the user does not have any right. They also cannot host the content which is defamatory, obscene, pornographic, invasive of another's privacy, bodily privacy, insulting or harassing on the basis of gender, racially or ethnically objectionable content, relating or encouraging money laundering or gambling. The content they have further described in the policy is that they cannot also upload the content which threatens the unity, integrity, defense, security, or sovereignty of India, friendly relations with foreign states, or public order, or insulting other nation, or incitement to the commission of any cognizable offense. So, according to the new rules under the additional due diligence, which is to be observed by social media intermediary, a significant social media intermediary providing services primarily in the nature of mass aging shall enable the identification of the first originator, provided that an order shall only be passed for the purposes of prevention, detection, investigation, prosecution, or punishment of an offense related to the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states or public order, or of incitement to an offense relating to the above or in relation with rape, sexually explicit material, or child sexual abuse material. Provided further that no order shall be passed in case where there is less intrusive means are effective in identifying the originator of the information. Also, that in complying with an order for identification of the first originator, no significant social media intermediary shall be required to disclose the contents of any electronic message, any other information related to the first originator, or any information related to its other users. Means they cannot just disclose this information to the other users under this policy. So the rising concerns which are increasing day by day, some of the concerns are the latest concern about the rape of Bangladeshi victim in Bengaluru 2 days ago. We have found the viral video of a rape of a victim which was circulated through ASA. So in order to stop these type of rising concerns, the importance of this policy is at an extreme level. We can also look upon the Delhi riots case. The Delhi riots case was responsible due to these WhatsApp groups. The people misuse the WhatsApp groups in order to create the havoc situation in the Delhi. So in order to stop such things, this social media policy is important at an extreme level. There are also the risks of cyber warfare which are involved internationally. For example, China is trying to develop its cyber warfare techniques through its technological partners in order to attack India. So in order to be safe and secure against these cyber warfare techniques, this implementation of the social media policy is a must thing. Now, the WhatsApp university forwards are also increasing day by day. These forwards are totally baseless, which are just trying to bring the violence in the country, which is harmful for the country. So in order to stop these kinds of baseless WhatsApp forwards, the social media policy is important thing. Now, let us come upon the additional due diligence of this social media policy. The rules say that the intermediary has to appoint a chief compliance officer who will ensure that whether these new IT rules are being followed or not. Nodal contact person for 24/7 coordination with law enforcement agencies to see that whether these laws are being implemented fairly or not. The resident grievance officer will be responsible for taking the user's complaints. This grievance mechanism system is totally developed for the sake of public. It will be benefited to public. If any person in the public has any problem with any social media intermediary, he can raise his concern through this grievance redressal system, and government will look upon it. So this system is important to be implemented for the favor of public. Now we will come upon the OTT platforms. Now OTT platforms are asked to classify their content in 5 categories. That is 7+, 13+, 16+ adult category. So this categorization is very much important to be done in our country in order to protect the Indian culture. Now let us move upon the code of ethics. The publisher shall take into consideration the following factors when deciding to feature or transmit any content. Exercise due caution and discretion in relation to the content. So before publishing any content, we have to just take the cautionary measures, which is explained in the code of ethics of the social media policy. They have further said that the caution in relation to the content which affects the sovereignty and integrity of India, which threatens, endangers, or jeopardizes the security of the state, which is detrimental to India's friendly relations with foreign countries, content which is likely to incite the violation, the caution must be published by the publisher. So there are rising concerns with these OTT platforms too. For example, we have found the example of Padmavat. They made this claim that Karni Sena had an issue because it distorted the history. We have one more example of this Family Man season 2. Tamil Nadu natives felt that the state was portrayed wrongly. And in the case of Tandav, the religious sentiments of various people were hurt. So in order to stop these cases and these threats, which are very much dangerous for our country, the social media policy is important in order to work in the favor of public and to maintain a public order in this democratic country. That's it from my side. Thank you.
So let's hear from the team member against the motion.
Good morning. I'm Srishti Garg and I'm speaking against the motion. What happened in Italy when Mussolini rose to power? What is happening in Hong Kong as PRC is taking over lives? Belarus is one of the worst countries when it comes to freedom of speech. What happened when Saudi started killing journalists? What happens when such extreme nationalist approaches take over the practicality of daily life? What happens when a jingoistic regime tries to impose its beliefs and tries to control an individual's expression to self? If freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led, like sheep to the slaughter. George Washington. Freedom of speech is slowly and silently being taken away in India with the current government in power. The information technology rules regulate the social media platforms by imposing a code of ethics, which takes away the immunities that the intermediary had in the past. The rules lay down a 3-tier structure for observance and adherence to the code. This oversight mechanism is being created without any clear legislative backing. The draft IT rules made it mandatory for significant social media intermediary service to enable the identification of the first originator of the information. This introduces the requirement of traceability, which would break the end-to-end encryption, basically compromising the privacy of the individual. These are used by millions of Indians, and encryption becomes even more important now as more of our lives involve our personal data being aggregated and analyzed at a scale that was never possible before. There is no proper parliamentary oversight or judicial check on this surveillance, and the latest draft rules would be a tremendous expansion in the power of the government over ordinary citizens, which is eerily reminiscent of China's blocking and breaking of user encryption to surveil its citizens. Any attempt to weaken encryption to enable traceability would not satisfy the objective of ensuring secure use of electronic medium. The government was also seen suppressing social media companies to remove not only what it believes is misinformation, but also posts that criticize the government. For example, Twitter has come under fire because it refused to take down manipulated media mark on the current government demand. The manipulated media was asking questions regarding the government's response to the grave second wave of COVID-19 infections. It is said that hypocrites get offended by the truth. The government is trying to stifle online criticism. This policy, these rules are discriminatory, unfair, and irresponsible. And the question we need to ask is, can privacy of all users be compromised because there might be a legitimate demand for law enforcement agencies for information on one user or one message? Many governments around the world don't want these kinds of encrypted platforms because these platforms are blind to them and do not allow mass surveillance. But at what cost? Where is free speech and expression? What about creativity? It is said that censorship is to art what lynching is to justice. Any potential legislation regarding the OTT video streaming sector in India may cause immense harm to individual rights as well as national interest. Today, India is no longer just a consumer, but also a producer of high quality video content that provides employment and entertainment to audiences locally and globally. The vague definition of publisher of the news and current affairs content may also lead to further arbitrariness by the government, leading to exercise of significant discretionary power that would allow them to censor media at their pleasure. The code of ethics mentioned in the rules have marked guidelines which are to be followed, and it mentions that there mustn't be content which is likely to incite violence or disturb the maintenance of public order. What is public order? Who decides what's disturbing the public order? Public order is a really broad term which gives more space for it to be misused. They have also added that these social media and OTT platforms must take into consideration India's multifaceted society. But we must also keep in mind that the society is becoming more intolerant with each passing day. Who decides what hurts your sentiments? This seems to me a case of I'll tell you how you feel. There is another rule which provides the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting with the right to block information in case of emergency, where no delay is acceptable. What are these cases where no delay is acceptable? And who decides it? There is not a lot of clarity in these rules, which reminds me a lot of the CAA and NRC. These rules for social media conduct are anti-democratic and unconstitutional. We fear that despite material changes made to the draft rules, the core and substance of these concerns remain the same. Further, some new areas of regulation have been added without public deliberation. It has become even worse with an illegal and unconstitutional proposed extension of executive powers to regulate online media and video streaming platforms. The present approach not only fails to adopt this in letter and spirit, but has the potential of chilling our voices online and also hurting our privacy. Having said that, I would like you to ponder over a quote from Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media, regardless of frontiers. Thank you.
Now let's move forward to the team members supporting the laws.
Thank you, Shubhankar. Now, to frame our stance correctly and to conclude the debate, I'd like to point out how the opposition has cherry-picked information conveniently, choosing to ignore how the law encompasses multifaceted take on the security of internet consumers. So the government, more so the law, is to be enacted only on the case of a breach, emphasis on breach, which essentially includes various factors and not just the integrity and security of the state. It's an incitement to an offense related to rape, jeopardizing friendly relations with foreign countries, public orders, sexually explicit material, and pornography. So the grievance redressal officer has been instructed to address grievances of the user. Again, it is more user centric than government centric, as the opposition is claiming it to be. And the redressal officer has to address the grievances within 24 hours and has been held accountable for the same, as he's binded by a report at the end of every month. Then moving on to the privacy of users, and has like has it has been stated in the law The privacy of users on the computer resource of such intermediary, including interest protected through the appropriate is protected through the appropriate use of technical measures. It ensures that prior to the time at which internet removes or disables access, it provides the user with a notification explaining the action being taken and the grounds of its reason. Then, furthermore, adding on to it, WhatsApp is least concerned with privacy, and it's already selling and selling information to meta information to bigger companies we are not aware of. So, and traceability and surveillance as a part of anti-terrorism law has always been existent and should not be considered illegal. And moreover, there is no pre-censorship in place, and yeah, and there is no curtailing of freedom. It just has to be altered. It just has to be used more responsibly. And print and broadcast TV media has always been under the purview of Press Council of India and have inbuilt regulatory measures. So OTT should not be considered out of it, and they should be on the same leveling ground. So yeah, so that is how, and I'd like to rest my case on it. So I don't think the present law in its subsidiary legislature, I don't think it should be considered government friendly, and it's rather more user friendly.
Let's move forward and hear from the team member against the motion.
Good morning. I'll be concluding our perspective on the debate. So, in conclusion, and so far listening to both sides of the story, the implications of these rules to me are clear. They are utterly unconstitutional and lack any regard or concern for the privacy of users. In heat of nationalism and national security, this government has already taken over most media houses and directly or indirectly has control over most public institutions as well. Now, all that's left is to control what we see, what we have, and to have an eye over who we talk to and what we talk about. Just the tracing of the individual originator of a message is a complete and utter breach of privacy. And any attempt to weaken the encryption through backdoors or key escrow systems would undermine the privacy and security of all users. Because these vulnerabilities could be exploited by other criminals as well. One sees this country heading on its way to become another China. And as Mr. Harish Patil said, this is something done to fight cyber warfare from China. China's internet censorship is more comprehensive and sophisticated than any other country in the world. Their government literally blocks websites and contents and monitors the whole internet access. Keeping in mind all this, these guidelines are a camouflaged way to indirectly regulate online media, OTT platforms, and our social messaging apps. By bringing all these platforms under the aegis of the Information Technology Act of 2000, instead of following due process and parliamentary scrutiny and subsequently legislation. And this whole box of anti-human right document is exactly what they plan to implement over us. I, for one, am concerned for the significance of individual importance as a whole in this country, which already experiences politicians as godlike figures, where journalists already lack any social or private freedom, where each act of self-expression which contradicts the regime's belief is frowned upon and brought down by either legal or independent organizations. When the police under the center's control barges into libraries and mercilessly attacks students, a government that still thinks love jihad is a real issue and acts upon it. A government which has continuously proven to be a necessary of the concept of divide and rule. A government which thrives literally on religious disputes with no regard to individual dignity and human rights. This is a country ruled by aristocratic barbarians who can't even conduct regional politics without murder. Imagine this kind of authority going over to what goes into the human mind, falling in the hands of such businessmen and through digital media. So they don't remain a watchdog anymore. It's a rabid hound bound to bite back and take us all down with it. Ungrateful and unthoughtfully thought of decisions, which so blatantly favor themselves and the mindless drones following them. Imagine if they decide what you see, and if they start to take action over every contradictory forward message. The result of such control is either we slip back into dictatorship or have to fight another struggle to get our freedoms back, just this time from ourselves. So I call upon you, India, to awaken in these times of moral blindness, to rise up to yourselves, to look back and realize we've been fighting the same enemy since even before the British came. We've been fighting our own fraternity to control and punish one another, to make ourselves figures of worship, either through idols or ideologies. So, this is our conclusion that goes beyond the scope of just this debate. It isn't a matter of fighting against, it's about time we stop and take a look at what we have done to ourselves, creating bigger monsters each time to fight the previous ones. Will this ever end, I ask you? And is it not slavery to not speak one's thought? Thank you.
So without wasting any time, let's move on to the rebuttal round.
Okay, I would like
Okay.
to go first. Yeah, I would like to ask a question to Mansi. She made a whole poem about how bad this law might be and the government might be, and she outrightly called out the law useless and an illegal law. So, can she really state the facts that support her statement? Because putting the blame on the law without even it being implemented and not stating any fact, while she was just talking about the previous laws the government might have put in, seems to me like the hatred for the government and not the law.
Mansi,
Yeah,
would you like to take
yeah,
this question?
yeah. I have an example. Okay, let me quote an example. There is this journalist from Lucknow. His name is Arafat Khan. He post on Arafat's post on his Facebook page, which he calls Azamgarh Express, and on which he usually posts local news that is something sometimes combined with his own views. Had simply noted that in Gaza, the coming Friday, that was 28th May, every house and every vehicle would fly the Palestine flag. Based on his post, he faced criticism from the Israel supporters in India, and he was arrested on the basis of this post. This happened when these rules were not even implemented. So what will happen if these rules will come into force? What will happen? The government is censoring our this thing. We are not allowed, uh, we don't have our right to freedom of speech. We are losing our fundamental rights. That what I believe.
I'm sorry, but you said it yourself. The rules have not yet been implemented and has nothing to do with this. The rules never the rules were never implemented until now. So how can you IT law for the journalist from Lucknow being arrested?
This is what I'm
I'd
saying.
like I'd like to take this question,
I would like
Mansi,
Mansi to
if that's
answer
okay.
the question because that's what she said.
Okay, this is what I'm saying. This is happening when these rules are not even implemented. So what will happen if these rules will come into force?
I want to give a clear.
So you're blaming the law on a make believe world. That what if scenario is all you need to judge the law.
Can I speak a point?
Can I answer your question, Aman?
Yes, Vision, please. Yes, Vision.
Okay. You said how can we blame a law on the basis of a what if scenario? This wasn't a what if scenario. Every time a journalist reports something even contradictory to what the government is planning to do or is doing, he's faced with UAPA. He's faced with allegations such as being a threat to national security, and they are literally put into jails. And it's not a what if scenario; it is a what is happening right now scenario. And just by reading these documents, I think any sane individual would understand that they are wanting to increase their reach into our lives, and again by clearly breaching privacy. It's not even a matter of debate for in my perspective. I mean, they clearly want themselves to trace the originator of any said message under whatever criteria that they have proposed. I mean, in the beginning, Arush talked about dangerous info. What is who classifies it as dangerous info? He talked about battling fake news. Is this the right way? I mean, is taking privacy of the individuals away a good way to ensure security? Is that the only way we can ensure better security? Or have we lost all other options?
I'm
That's my
sorry,
question
but
to you.
again,
Give me one. Give me. Yeah.
you escaped the question, and I'm
We
Can
should
I?
move on to the other question.
No, I want Aman to answer my question right now.
No. I wanted to ask. I wasn't answering.
Let me clear the
I mean,
Srijan's
it
point,
was my
please.
turn to ask a question, and so do you
I
not
want
want
to
to answer the
clear.
question? Then sure, we can move on.
No, I want to clear both the points of Mansi
I
and
want.
Srijan in single statement.
Sure.
In the body itself, I have provided the social media policy, and under that, the government has stated that the message of the originator will not be traced unless and until it would be uh, it would create the situation of violence, or it would be threatful for a country for its sovereignty and unity. So the
Yes.
conditions are provided within the policy. So until this content is threatful to the country, they will not.
Can I answer your
go
question,
with the
Harish? I
originator.
understood your question.
Yeah.
Okay. You said whatever hurts the sovereignty of the country. What does that even mean? And who decides what hurts the sovereignty of the country? Is it not the people of the country living in the country, making the country, providing for the country, make the sovereignty of the country? Is taking their personal freedom away gonna in any way ensure the increment or the betterment of sovereignty of the country, Harish? I mean, you quoted an example of someone posting a rape, a video of a girl getting raped in Assam, right? I mean, is that now how news spreads around? I mean, I get it. It was an explicit video, but some news channel might have picked it. It would have helped them in some way. I think it helped the police to catch two of the people, and so is how does reporting of a rape on digital media is supposed to stop any rape? Isn't that the other way around? Aren't we supposed to create awareness? Aren't we supposed to get these facts into light? I mean, it started with a vulgar point of view, but it might have helped them, and it did help them. Please answer this question, Harish. How does journalism not help, and how does the free flow of information not help anyone? How does the government keeping a continuous eye over what you say and what you speak provide for any security? Do you not see what's happening in China right now? They came with the same angle, na? What's happening in Belarus right now? They wanted to have their national security. Now the people are suffering. Harish, India is not separate from the people. We are India, and it is about you and me. Okay, please answer these questions.
Srijan, only one question is allowed. Now let's move on to the other question.
Yeah, it was only one question. How does breaching secure privacy of an individual help the country to keep its sovereignty?
Okay. Can I go next?
Yeah.
Okay. So, with all due respect, the three of you came in and you guys spoke about how you guys held the government accountable for various things, but you missed the very backing to as to how this particular rule is uh, creating a havoc, or any with any of or if it's falling short of anything except an attack on freedom of speech and expression, which I pointed out in my conclusion that it was not only about curtailing freedom of speech and expression. First of all, it isn't really curtailing freedom of speech and expression. Any body which is out in public has to be regulated, and that's important. And it is not a breach on anyone's creative license either. So when you guys talked about the law, it was focusing mainly on freedom of speech and expression, and how the government hasn't specified what hurts what disrupts the sovereignty of the country. So there are laws intact, and even in a preamble, if we go through it, the sovereignty and security of the state has been given prime focus for a reason, right? So our relation with foreign and also about the originator of the message, with WhatsApp University on a rampant high right now, and we know how fake news is relayed irrespective of the content. Very recent would be the January 2019. There was an Islamic revolution that spread across WhatsApp, and so like Harish quoted, the Delhi riots. So I don't. Do you not feel that finding the originator of the message and just holding that one person accountable for spreading fake news instead of creating a chaos and widespread commotion, just foldedly, wouldn't that be better than, yeah, wouldn't that be
Can you
better?
summarize it like in one line? I kind of got your point, but
Okay,
which
so
facet of
my
your question should I answer, since you said in your thing it's a multifaceted,
yeah,
program
my,
the government
okay,
has envisioned upon us?
yeah. So my question would be that, do you have any like technical backing or factual backing to not agree or comply with the new rule, apart from it being a mere uh, attack on freedom of speech and expression or your creative license?
Okay, I think all those three are technically and legal and very factual basis to attack, to oppose anyone on a legal argument concerning a law that might be implemented on the citizens of a country, right? Under which they can be prosecuted under law. So all those three things, I think, summarize, I'll keep it short. Okay. Then you said it is very user friendly. Um, Explain to me, please, which user wants their privacy to be taken away? And what was one more thing that you said? I
Privacy.
don't,
If you think WhatsApp is
user friendly. Oh, no. But go on.
Right,
so no.
last question.
Okay, I think we're about time, so I'll just conclude it. I don't think that suppression is really necessary, and I don't think the government's eye into things is really necessary to control all these matters, to control all these problems. Right? Fake news can be dealt with without it's without the extreme implication of such laws by which people can be harmed and it can be easily misused. Thank you.